This is Amateur Logic, episode 158 for July 15th, 2021. This episode of Amateur Logic is brought to you by MFJ, the world leaders in amateur radio accessories, and by ICOM, serving the public when it matters. Hi, welcome to another AmateurLogic.TV. I'm George.
I'm Tommy.
And I'm Mike.
And it's great to see everyone tonight. Well, actually, the only people I see are Tommy and Mike, but I know there's other folks out there as well. I see them in the chat room.
Actually, don't let them fool you. We can see you through there.
Yep. AmateurLogic.TV/chat. Join us over there if you're watching live. If we're not live, you're watching the recording, well, it might be kind of quiet in there.
There are actually some people that hang out in there all the time.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not one of them, but there are. Actually, I have been for the last month, but I didn't realize it.
So, Tommy, what's been going on?
Well, we had field day since we were last here. So that was fun. Thought I was going to have to go by myself. You had something else come up, but I ended up finding somebody to go with me. You'll see who it was in a minute when we do my segment.
Okay. Mike, what's been going on up there?
Regarding the field day, I worked a little bit of field day. I wasn't too serious about it, but I did manage to make some contacts. And actually, I had a little fun this time being solo, not working with a club. I started try to chase down different sections, and I managed to grab quite a few, although it didn't tally up to a lot of points. But I had a lot of fun collecting different sections this time.
Yeah, and y'all just had a weather event up there, yesterday, huh?
Yeah, we did. Unfortunately, we had it was declared an EF2 tornado touchdown. That happened around 3 p.m. yesterday afternoon, and a lot of folks are kind of critical of the weather people for the lack of notification. Although in cases of tornadoes, that kind of advanced warning usually don't get too much notice in advance anyway. But in this case, it caught a lot of people off guard. And there was quite a bit of damage, and I think there's about 100 people basically out of their home right now. A lot of two-story homes lost their second floor. Yeah, a lot of roof damage and flipped over trailers and automobiles and such.
Wow. Yeah. It's never good when a tornado comes through.
Nope. Does that happen very often up there?
This is the second big one. We had a big one in '85. And I wasn't living in the area at the time. It was about 2 years prior to me moving up here. And apparently it was part of a big system that came up through the Carolinas and Pennsylvania and Ohio, and ended up we're actually the very north end of Tornado Alley. So it's not a lot unusual for us to get tornadoes up here. But the last big one was in '85, but that was caused a lot more damage. I think it was an F4 at the time. Mm-hmm. This was an EF2, which I saw the damage an EF2 did. I would have wanted to be around when the EF4 hit.
I hear you. Yeah, I saw some pictures of that. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I unfortunately didn't do field day this year. I had some other things going on that weekend and was not able to do it. But there's always next year. So, I don't know, maybe I'll get out there. I'm wearing the shirt like I was QRP and out doing it.
Yeah. It's QRP night tonight. Mike's got his on too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little I'm a little different shade, although it doesn't look that way when I look at it here. But on video, I can see it's more of an olive green than it is forest green, I guess.
Yeah. So, Tommy, I suspect you're going to have a video on field day tonight.
Definitely.
And I'm going to have one on, well, I'm just going to call it Distortion Exploration. And Mike, what will your subject be tonight?
Well, I've got a neat little software application. You may remember the OpenWebRx demo that I did several episodes ago. This is along the same lines, but it's not web-based. It runs in an app, and it's very cool. And it actually, I'm going to show the digital decoding aspect of the program. So it's going to be kind of neat to listen to the various digital modes: D-Star, DMR, YSF, and XDN.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, to get on into our emails and posts and such, Mike, you're up first with, I'm going to guess this is some kind of microcontroller.
Yes, that's the Jupiter Nano, which is, I think it's kind of a Kickstarter right now. I don't think it's available yet, but its claim to fame is, I think it may be the first little controller that can run Linux on a chip. And it's actually kind of neat. It's made for Arduino users, but it has quite a bit more performance than the Arduino does. It has 128 megs of RAM on it, which is considerably more than the Arduinos. It's running on on ARM Cortex A5, and it's got some really cool features, like even a lithium polymer charging circuit built on board. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think I might order one when they become available.
Cool. Well, we'll look forward to learning more about that. There's been a lot of new microcontrollers come on the market in the last year or so.
It really has. Some of them are really cool.
Yeah.
This one's kind of neat because you can run Linux. It'll run a Linux real-time operating system on it, and especially if you're trying to do something that's, that you've got software available. Apparently, it's scalable from 8-bit to 32-bit systems, so it uses ANSI and POSIX standards.
Okay.
So it's going to be interesting to see when it comes out what kind of projects come out with it.
Tommy, you want to set up your video for tonight?
Yeah, well, I kind of already did, but it was field day, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. My original plan kind of fell through, so I grabbed my gear and took off, and, well, this is kind of how it worked out. Well, it's field day 2021. I'm out here doing field day by myself again this year. We had some previous engagements and some personal things going on, and we just weren't able to pull off the usual camping trip. Not to mention it's been raining so bad that area is like a swamp out there. Well, I'm gonna go over what I'm using for field day this time. I've got my usual Surface Pro 3 that I've used for several years. N1MM logger is on there and set up to communicate with my radio, which is my IC705. I'm gonna be running QRP this year, so I'm not expecting to set any records with points, but I am gonna have a heck of a good time. And I'm looking forward to using it. This is my first time really out in the field with this since I've got it. I've used it around home some, but I'm looking forward to using it out here. For power, I've got the battery pack on the radio, but I've also got a little 8 amp hour LifePo 4 battery, a little Amazon special I got, and I'm really anxious to see how this thing holds up. It wasn't very expensive, so I don't have high hopes for it, but we'll see. I'm thinking it'll probably last as long as I'm gonna be able to stay out here today. But I'll let you know. I'm gonna be running the 5 watts QRP though, so I can use the multiplier for my points. So what few points I do get, at least they'll increase somewhat. As for a tuner, I've got an AH705 coming, but it hasn't made it yet. So I borrowed this little Soda Beams Adventure tuner George built on Ham Nation several years ago. It's a QRP tuner It's a little bit kind of different to use than some of the ones that I've used before, but it does work. To make tuning a little bit easier, I brought my U-Kits antenna analyzer I got from MFJ. I don't remember the model number, but I'll put it right below here. But it's really handy. It's small. I've got batteries in it, and these batteries last an eternity. Things are very, very handy. For my antenna, I'm using my MFJ Big Ear that you've seen me use quite a few times before. I really like that thing. It's so easy for me to set it up. In about 10 to 15 minutes, I can have it on the tripod, guide off, bring some rope and some tent stakes, and have the antenna fully extended and the coil tapped to the band that I want to use, which is going to be 40 starting off today. So let's see if we can make some contacts. Well, look who just showed up. My help showed up kind of late. This is the same one that usually shows up after George and Wayne have the camp set up. November 5 Zulu, November Oscar.
Okay, November Oscar, stand by. go. 1 Delta, South Carolina, 1 Delta, Western New York, QSL. Okay, the other station, I think with Oscar, or Delta.
November 5 Zulu, November Oscar.
November 5, what?
Zulu, Z, November, Oscar.
Okay, November 5 Zulu, November Oscar, 1 Delta, Western New York.
1 Bravo, Mike Sierra, 1 Bravo, Mississippi. Thank you for the contact.
Thank you for the contact. Okay, accept one station, the Tango X-ray, please stand by November, Alpha 4. November 4, Alpha.
It's a busy place. November 5 Zulu, November Oscar.
November 5 Zulu, November Oscar, go.
1 Bravo, Mike Sierra, 1 Bravo, Mike Sierra.
Okay, thank you for that. Copy 3 Alpha, Whiskey, India, over.
QSL, good luck.
Thank you, QRZ, field day, Whiskey 9, Mike Victor, Alpha, field day. You're Arkansas, good luck. Whiskey Alpha 2, Charlie Papa.
November 5 Zulu, November Oscar.
Whiskey 4, Whiskey Kilo Uniform, 2 Foxtrot, November, Lima, India. Victor, Kentucky, Whiskey Alpha 2, Charlie Papa.
November 5 Zulu, November Oscar.
With November 5, Zulu, November Oscar, 2 Foxtrot, November, Lima, India.
QSL, 1 Bravo, Mike Sierra, 1 Bravo, Mississippi. Good luck.
You faded out on me. The exchange again?
1 Bravo, Mike Sierra.
Dagster, Mississippi, 73, Whiskey Alpha 2, Charlie Papa, field day.
Well, I had a pretty nice spot here. I think I may come back here in the future and operate some. But anyway, field day's been really nice. I've made a few contacts. I'm not going to break any records like I was thinking, but I've had a great time. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to head on home and take care of some things. Field day's not over until tomorrow afternoon, so I'll probably be back on. Actually, I know I'll be back on from home tonight and tomorrow until it's over with. But my little excursion, unfortunately, has come to an end. I'm really happy with my gear. My computer held up fine. My battery's been going all day. My IC705 has been great. The audio's great on it. The battery life has been fantastic. I didn't turn off the Wi-Fi or the GPS or anything. If I look at my battery here, my little LiFePO, I've still got 13.1 volts and it's a 12.8 volt battery, so it's still got a lot of life left in it. And I have done a lot of talking, a lot of calling on here, and I've run 5 watts all day. I did try 10 a few times to see if it made much difference. But anyway, all of my contacts are that I've logged are all on 5 watts. My little LiFePO battery, I'm really happy with it. It was cheap, Amazon cheap thing. Almost didn't buy it because I'm afraid it wasn't going to be any good, but I'm really happy with it. The little tuner I got from George has been kind of nice. I haven't had to tune the Big Ear as many times as I normally would. Only had to tune it once when I changed bands from 40 down to 20 meters. But it's been nice. It's a lot of work to get it tuned. Without the antenna analyzer, it'd be kind of hard to use, but that's kind of a lifesaver as well. But I've had a really good time, and look forward to next field day. Hopefully we can get out and go back to the woods. 73.
That was really cool.
Yeah, I told you I had some help.
Yeah.
He wasn't much help though.
Didn't look like it.
No.
You finally figured out how to be in two places at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting there and was thinking about that. I was like, it'd be nice if somebody else was here. Then I thought about that, so I set that up. But anyway.
So was anybody else there?
No, there wasn't anybody around at all.
Wow.
There's hardly ever anybody in that area.
Huh.
Most people just pass through and stop and then go on. So, but I got all the way down the end by myself.
I could swear that I saw Emil go by on that pontoon boat with an umbrella drink in his hand.
There were a lot of boats going by there. That was probably the downside. That one thing when I said it's a busy place, there was a helicopter flew over and a jet boat went by.
Wow. Ed wants to know, was that 5 or 10 watts?
I ran 5 watts. All the contacts that you saw, they were all 5 watts.
Okay.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. That should not even be possible.
Yeah, and that was all on my big ear. And I forgot to bring the spool of rope I used to guy it off, so I had to recycle the old rope that was on there that had been cut. So I wasn't able to extend my tripod up as I wanted to.
Okay. Well, I would have liked to have been there. You didn't mention that particular site until
Well, I was saving the best one.
afterwards. Well, apparently so.
Actually, it was a good place. I would go back there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That does look like a nice spot, particularly if it's setting up something quickly like that. That's off the Natchez Trace.
Yeah, there's actually a bathroom right up the road there and everything. So.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we're going to be back in just a moment. And I don't know, I'm going to do a little bit of trash talking.
Some smack talk?
Yeah, sort of.
If space is at a premium in your ham station, then MFJ's got a solution. The MFJ 4230MV Mighty Light is the world's most compact switching power supply, and it includes a meter and adjustable voltage control. At just 5 inches wide by 2.5 inches high and 3 inches deep, it weighs only 3 pounds. It's perfect not only for space-limited installations, but also pack and go for field day, de-expeditions, camping, hiking, or on your next business trip or vacation to some faraway place. The MFJ 4230MV gives you 25 amps continuously or 30 amps surge at 13.8 volts. A front panel control allows you to vary the voltage anywhere from 4 to 16 volts. Input voltage is selectable between 120 and 240 volts AC at 47 to 63 Hertz, so you can use it almost anywhere in the world. The MFJ 4230MV power supply's front panel meter is selectable for voltage or amps. Excellent 75% efficiency and extra low ripple and noise of less than 100 millivolts make this supply a clean source of power for your rig. Some competing switching power supplies generate objectionable RF hash in your transmitted and received signals, but the Super Clean MFJ Mighty Light supplies meet all FCC Class B regulations. The unit cools by convection and includes a whisper-quiet fan and heat sensor that increases the fan speed as necessary to keep things cool. DC output is provided on 5-way binding post, or choose the MFJ 4230MVP to include a pair of popular power pole connectors. All MFJ switching power supplies are protected by MFJ's famous no matter what 1-year limited warranty. Check out the MFJ 4230MV and the MFJ 4230MVP. Visit mfjenterprises.com today.
Cool. I got that power supply.
I thought you had that one.
It's a good one.
Yeah. I've got the model right next to it. There's one that has a digital readout on it. And it's, they're both essentially the same power supply, really nice and compact for 30 amps.
I was going to say about, I don't want to just dwell on it, but did you see the little battery I had on my field day? segment, the little LifePo battery. LifePo, LIFEPO. It was an 8 amp
Lithium iron
battery.
phosphate.
Yeah. That thing was amazing, man. It lasted and lasted and lasted the whole day there. It still had a lot of power left in it. So I may do a short or something on that at some point and show it. Maybe.
And
anyway,
I bet you that
really
weighs
cool.
next to nothing, too.
It does. You pick it up and you think it's empty almost.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Was it very expensive?
No, it was really cheap. Now, Bioenno makes some stuff, and I'm sure they're way better batteries. But it was pretty inexpensive, and it says it's 8 amps. I imagine you probably won't get 8 amp hours out of it, but it lasted all day for me, which is all I cared about when I bought it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, my segment tonight is going to be on a project that I started out to do one thing and it kind of veered off into something else. And ended up I needed to do a little explaining. Distortion Exploration. That's the title of this segment. It began a few weeks ago on the last episode of Ham College. There was a question on there asking how you would check for intermodulation distortion on a single sideband transceiver. The answer was you would use a two-tone generator with unharmonically related tones. I just happen to have one here. This is a kit I built several years ago. It's a Hendrix kit from QRPKits.com. It generates a 700 Hz and a 1900 Hz tone, and it allows you to mix them and feed them to your transmitter. This version of the kit used 2 oscillators with transistors. Then it had one integrated circuit as the output amplifier on it. Well, now they've updated the kit a little bit. Rather than Hendrix, it's now Pacific Antenna. It's still at QRPKits.com, but it uses 3 integrated circuits and a couple of FETs and 2 batteries. I suspect the reason they changed this circuit and went with the additional battery is to improve the performance. In other words, get down lower distortion in the test equipment itself. Tommy said he thought it would be a good idea to look at measuring intermodulation distortion. I thought so too. However, once I started down this path, I found out there's a few other things that we probably need to cover before we even talk about that, and that's the test equipment itself. I have several oscillators, but we're going to pull out this one as well. This is a Tenma 72-505 audio generator. It's got fixed frequency steps on it. It's only a single tone. That's fine. We'll start out simple. I'm going to connect this single tone oscillator to my Siglent SDS 1202X-E digital storage scope. Now, this is a really nice scope. I was very fortunate last year to receive the Homebrew Heroes Award for 2020. The scope was one of the prizes that I received with it. I have not used it a lot yet. I'm still getting familiar with it, and I thought this might be a good opportunity to look at some of the extra functions on it. First, let's just put in, well, let's say a 1 kilohertz tone. And we'll look at that using the oscilloscope. And it's what we expect, sine waves here. And if we went through and actually did some measuring here and some calculating, we could come up and find that this is 1000 hertz. What's nice about these new scopes, though, is many of them have a frequency counter built in it. We can see right there it's 1.01239 kilohertz. Close enough to 1000 hertz. One of the neat things about this scope is the math functions that are built in. We can press the math button and we've got a variety of options. We're going to choose the FFT operator. And we'll make a few other settings on here as well. Our source is going to be number 1. The window type we're going to use for this experiment is Blackman. And I'll set the center for, I don't know, let's say 1 kilohertz. We see 0 hertz here. We ignore that. The center is 1000 hertz, and we can see that displayed right here. This would be 1500. That's 2000 hertz. So we have a little second harmonic here. And we see a third harmonic pop up there every now and then. Is that something to be concerned about? Well, let's see. We'll turn on our cursors. I'll turn off the X cursor, go to the Y cursor. Cursor Y1. I'll roll that right here to the very top of that signal, and then go to cursor 2. Let's lower it down to the top of the second harmonic there. And it calculates out for us here. That's what's nice about these math functions. Not only can we do FFTs, we can also do some calculations with the cursors. So that's telling us right here. First, we probably want to set the source to math. Now it's going to make this easier. There's 48 dB difference between those two cursors there. That's almost 50 dB down for the second harmonic, which I guess is not bad for an inexpensive oscillator. Now let's switch over. Let's look at the little two-tone oscillator. We'll start out by just turning on the 700 hertz section. And I will want to make some settings here up to the center. Hertz per division, we'll leave that at 500 for now. Center frequency, let's change that, I don't know, let's change it to 700 hertz. There we go. 700 hertz right here in the center. You see that little spike right there next to where 0 hertz would be? Let's check that out. To do that, we'll need an X cursor. And let's get cursor number 1 there. And we'll roll it over. .70 hertz. I'm going to say that is probably 60 hertz that we're seeing. All right, if we roll on up here, there is 700 hertz right there. Now let's get cursor number 2. Let's roll it out there. Well, it says 1410 hertz, close enough. And it's telling us the delta X is 710 hertz. That means the difference between this cursor mark and this one is 700 hertz. So that tells us plainly that is the second harmonic. We'll scroll on over a little further. This one is 1410 hertz above this mark. That tells us that's the third harmonic, which is a little more third harmonic on this one than there was on that other oscillator. Now let's measure the levels of those. Get cursor 1, Y. Scroll that right to the top. Let's get cursor 2. So our second harmonic here, 43 dB down. Similar to where we were a while ago. However, third harmonic is about 50 dB down. That's probably good enough for what we're going to do with this oscillator, but could be better. So now what happens if we turn on both oscillators? Oh, look, we got a lot more stuff on here. 700 hertz right there. This one is going to be 1900 hertz. We know that because 1900 is the center frequency. And then we've got all these other spikes sitting out here. Those are mostly harmonics, but let's just see. One thing to note here, though, is we've got some down here below either of those frequencies. That's going to be the product of 700 hertz and 1900 hertz mixing together. Go to cursor number 2. So that's going to be the 60 cycles. But right up from that, we've got another little spike there. That's at 130 hertz. Another one there at 190 hertz. Another one at 310. One there at 430, 490. So you can see these are not necessarily adding up like second harmonics or third harmonics. These are multiples of our original 2 oscillator frequencies. Now the thing we look for when we're going to do a test of intermodulation distortion, we put those 2 tones in. And then we're going to look for all this kind of stuff right here. When we find spikes in there that are not harmonically related with whole numbers to our original 2 signals, then we've got intermodulation distortion. In other words, it won't be second harmonic, third harmonic, fourth. It might be 2.5, some decimal number like that. So what have we learned here? Before you go to measuring a piece of gear, you probably ought to connect up your test gear. In other words, what you're going to be using as a source and what you're going to be using as a destination to take the measurement with, and check those out, find out how they perform on their own before you go putting a piece of equipment between them to measure it.
That's a pretty cool scope. I'm not used to seeing those oscilloscopes with a widescreen on them, but that's really nice to be able to see a little beyond what you would normally see.
Yeah, that's the same one I've got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a nice scope, and I'll come back from the old analog Tektronix days where there wasn't anything but a waveform on your scope. There was no text, no cursors or anything, and being able to drag those cursors around and measure things on screen is really, that's saves a heap of time.
And like you had mentioned, no math.
Yeah, no math. It's all built in.
I was thinking about that new design of the 2-tone generator and the 2 batteries. I'm wondering if it uses a biamp, that requires a split supply.
I think it does. At first I was thinking, well, maybe they're running one of the oscillators off one battery and the other off the other, so that they're not common to the positive voltage there. Maybe there was some kind of interaction between the two, but no. As I kind of glanced at the schematic of the new one there, it looks like it is a split supply because of the op amps. So I'm thinking it must be cleaner than the one I had there. Because, if you're using a noisy oscillator to do your measurements with, all that stuff's going to be going through your rig or whatever it is you're trying to measure. So you need to kind of account for that, and the cleaner, the better.
I'm just wondering, too, for those people that have software modems, whether or not there'd be a software application to do a 2-tone generation.
You probably could, and I use some other devices to do 2-tone oscillator with as well. And I didn't have it was slightly different. The some of the harmonics fell at different spots when I used different oscillators, and that was kind of interesting to me as well. And I had intended just to, demonstrate intermodulation distortion on a single sideband rig. But you kind of need to know what you're looking for, and you do need to check out your gear ahead of time to make sure your test gear is okay. And part of the stuff that didn't get shown there is I ran a square wave into the scope there to show what that does as well. And, the harmonics you've got coming off a square wave are different than what you've got coming off a sine wave. And then I tried some triangle waves and a lot of different type of waves. And, each of them kind of had their own characteristics, but that's the way that little Hendrix kit oscillator looked. And I had hoped it would be better than that. But then again, your rig is, I doubt it's going to, the intermod's not going to be 50 dB down on it, I wouldn't think. So I didn't measure one though, so I can't say. Tom is asking me, any idea how high the FFT function goes? Could you look at the spectrum of an HF transmitter with it? Yes, you could. I didn't really look that hard at it, but it may go all the way to 200 megahertz. It's a 200 megahertz scope, and when I was dialing in and trying to get down to the audio portion, I wanted to look at several times. I noticed it was up in the megahertz range for the center frequency. So
I think it will, because I made that tap that time, and I measured my handy talkie on 2 meters.
And you found it on there? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it would.
It should, yeah.
I mean, it probably does go out to 200 megahertz, which is pretty neat. I own a spectrum analyzer as well. I've got the a Rogall spectrum analyzer, and I've used it for RF stuff mainly. And why didn't I use it? Well, number one, I wanted to play some more with that Siglent scope, and I knew it had the FFT function in it. Number two, that Rogall spectrum analyzer goes up to 1.5 gig, but the bottom end is only 9 kilohertz, so I couldn't even measure any of this stuff with it.
Interesting.
So, yeah, Siglent was perfect for doing that. I got to say, I think it behaved a little better than I was expecting, talking about the scope now.
Mm-hmm.
But I did like the way, how easy it was to take those cursors and move around and look at stuff. That's just so much easier than the old way and so much quicker.
A significant event in the history of technology happened yesterday, which was July the 13th. And it passed so quietly that we almost missed it. And I did miss it, thanks to Mike for pointing it out to me. But the last few remaining NTSC transmitters in the USA finally went off the air, marking the end of over 7 decades, or 70 years of continuous 525-line American analog TV broadcasts. And, there's always the Europeans use PAL, and we have NTSC here, and you can read more about it right there at the URL that's on your screen. But they always kind of gave us a hard time about the NTSC stuff. The PAL had more lines and a little bit better picture quality.
I can't remember. Are you sure the PAL had more lines? I thought it had less.
625 lines.
Oh, wow.
I looked it up before.
Oh, so you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, 625.
Cool.
I'm just trying to remember, because it's such a long time ago, but I seem to remember PAL had better video quality, but lesser audio quality, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but I seem to remember that NTSC had a little edge over it when it came to the audio portion.
Yeah. So all those, since it's gone, all those been hanging on to the little console CRT TVs. You remember those big console TVs?
Oh, yeah.
Thinking they were going to come back in style? It's probably not going to happen.
You could always get a modulator and make it happen. Yeah, something I want to mention about that. I believe they said in the article, they mentioned the Franken FMs on there. You know, NTSC analog television, Channel 6, actually, it's two separate carriers on that system. You've got the visual carrier, which is AM, and you've got the analog carrier, which is FM. The FM audio transmission, or oral transmission, is what we called it. We actually I worked at a Channel 6 for a while. We actually had two different transmitters, one for each. And and then they were combined, behind the transmitters and going up to the antenna. But Channel 6 oral falls at, I believe it's 87.7 megahertz. You can tune that on most FM radios.
Yeah, I remember as a kid going back and listening to television at the bottom end of the FM dial.
Yeah. So that was kind of common over where I lived there at the time. People would tune it in on their stereo. I think In Concert was a show on ABC television back then. And, we'd broadcast it on the television. People could listen to it on their stereos, get a little better sound out of it. There were a number of Channel 6 low-power TV stations in the U.S.
Yeah.
There was one right here in Jackson.
Really?
Did you? Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was one right here in Jackson, and they did the same thing. They would just throw up a still frame or something on the video just so they could claim that they were doing television, and then they would play a radio format on the audio. And so I think maybe they were playing oldies or something on the one that was here. And after the date occurred there, I tuned in to just go check and see if it was still on the air. If it was, it'd be illegal unless they had bought digital gear. And as of yesterday, no, it's gone.
Oh, yeah.
It's not on the air. So I guess they decided, it's not going to be worth investing the money for digital television just to have that on there.
Yeah, that article was actually pretty interesting. The URLs on the show. So anyway, go read it if you're interested in any of that.
Yeah. Okay.
I used to enjoy listening to, there was a Channel 6 station when I used to do kind of my long 5-hour drives down to southern Ontario. I used to listen to the to television programs on one of the Channel 6 stations along the way, and it used to keep me entertained for probably, I would say, close to an hour and a half before I got out of range. It was pretty good.
Cool. Well, we're going to be back in just a moment. Mike's going to tell us that mysterious SDR project that he's been experimenting with. Well, you don't want to miss that.
June kicked off hurricane season, and another rough wildfire season may be on the horizon. When natural disasters strike, cellular towers and power grids can quickly become overloaded and incapacitated. Emergency comms need to be instant, reliable, and allow interoperation with other organizations and agencies for relief coordination. Amateur Radio provides reliable emergency communications with the added security of system redundancy. In addition to ICOM's lineup of amateur D-Star digital, HF, and analog radios, ICOM IC SAT-100 portable satellite radio, and IP501 HM LTE radios are an ideal solution for additional coverage. Use ICOM's VE-PG4 ROIP gateway to bridge these radios and more to various modern communication systems, creating a seamless network. You can count on ICOM. ICSAT-100 is the perfect handheld satellite radio for use outside of cellular or network range. By operating on Iridium's constellation of satellites, quickly and easily connect with other PTT devices even from remote areas. Mobile versions are also available. One-to-many global comms with the push of a button. ICOM's IP501H and IP501M radios provide instant wide area coverage over LTE. By using an LTE network, you bypass the need for pre-existing infrastructure, allowing nationwide coverage without the added cost of building and maintaining your own. Instant wide area coverage over LTE with ICOM's IP501 connect to all these devices and more, even systems operating on different protocols with VE-PG4 ROIP gateway. From land mobile and LTE radios to IP communication terminals and IP phone systems, they work together to form one seamless and uninterruptible network, ensuring your comms are received. Bridge connection between radio systems, LTE transceiver gateway, IP phone interconnect, multi-site connection between VE-PG4S, and external equipment connection. ICOM's VE-PG4 is the solution for your interoperability needs. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios.
Thanks, ICOM, for being a sponsor of Amateur Logic. You know, that's some pretty neat technology there, because we're all hams and we think that's what everybody ought to use for MCOM operations, but you're going to have to talk to some government agencies and things, and they won't have
unfortunately, there's some people out there that aren't hams.
Yeah.
Not yet.
I've heard. Yeah. So
you'd think it was ICOM Appreciation Night with all the garb we're wearing tonight.
Oh yeah. And y'all just don't know how hard it was to chroma key in these green shirts with the green screen.
But it looks good. It keyed out really well.
Yeah. Okay, Mike. You're going to have to tell us more about this.
Well, it comes with a bit of a disclaimer. I overextended myself, and for this segment, I didn't read the instructions or the documentation, so I was winging it all the way. And I guess my loss is your gain. By watching the video, you'll know exactly what to do. I've got more to say about that after the fact.
This time we're going to take a look at a really nice software app called SDRangel. SDRangel is an SDR or transceiver and signal analyzer front end to various hardware such as the AirSpy, Blade RF, Hack RF, Lime SDR, Pluto SDR, RTL SDR, SDR Play RSP1, and FunCube. SDRangel isn't new. It's been around for several years but continues to be developed. In fact, there have been 277 releases to date. I'll be showing you how to receive and decode the digital modes using an inexpensive RTL SDR dongle. Let's get started. The first thing we'll need to do is to download the software drivers for your hardware device and install. SDRangel only supports 64-bit processors, and you must be running a 64-bit operating system. Due to the processing involved, a Core i7 and 8 GB of memory is recommended, although I'll be using a 4th generation i5 with 8 GB of RAM. Since I'm using an RTL SDR dongle, I'll need to download and install Zadig. Go to the site and download the latest version. Be sure that your SDR device is plugged in and runs Zadig. You should see an application window like this. It will read 0 devices found. No worries, we haven't installed the device driver yet. Click on the Options tab and check List All Devices. I also needed to uncheck Ignore Hubs or Composite Parents to get my RTL SDR dongle to appear in the list. Click on the drop-down list box and locate your SDR hardware device in the list. Click on it to select. Note, most RTL SDR devices use an USB ID as shown here, and it should appear in the USB ID section. Click Reinstall Driver. The driver installation process should start. The installation process can take up to 5 minutes to complete. If all works properly, you should see a completed message like this. Click Close. Now head to the SDRangel GitHub project page, scroll down to Releases, and click on Latest. Find the Windows installation executable file, click on it to download the file. Depending on your web browser, you may see some of these warning messages. Just click on See More and keep the file. You may be presented with several of these messages. Windows will warn you now. Click on More Info. Click on Run Anyway. The installation will start. Click Next to continue. Then I agree. For simplicity, I add the path for all users and create a desktop icon. Choose your destination folder or just go with the default. Finally, the SDRangel installation process begins. Once the installation has completed, click Finish. Click on the SDRangel desktop shortcut that was created, and SDRangel should begin loading. When finished, you should see the SDRangel console. Click on the View tab and click on Full Screen, or press the F11 key on your keyboard to maximize the display. Okay, here we are. Our SDRangel application is loaded, and the first thing we need to do is add a device, and you do that by clicking on the Change Device box, and it's a set of little arrows, and then you're presented with this dialog box here with a drop-down list, and here's all the current devices that it supports. In my case, I'm using an RTL SDR dongle, and you can tell by this little number here that my driver is installed, and without a driver installed and working properly and communicating with the device, you won't see anything here. So that's your clue. If you don't see anything next to your device in terms of a device number, it means you need to go back and troubleshoot the driver and make sure the device is communicating properly. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. I'll click on it first and then click OK. And you're going to see this box up here change. Now I'm using 2 mega samples per second, and the higher you can go, obviously the better the quality is going to be for the audio, and this is going to vary depending on your hardware that you're using for your computer and such, and also your hardware device. So if you're using an RTL SDR dongle, you can kind of mimic my settings here as starter, and then the next thing we need to do, and oh yes, before that I should mention that I mentioned in the previous slides that you need to go to full screen. Otherwise you'll have a hard time seeing the demodulator section, and that's in the channels section. This is where you add your demodulators for the various digital modes or analog that you want to listen to. And you do that by clicking the plus sign over here on the channels. And if you click on the drop-down list, you'll see all the various demodulators that are available. We're going to focus in on the DSD demodulator for the digital modes. But you'll notice here that you've got your standard narrowband FM demodulator, wideband FM demodulator, which is used for FM broadcast. There's also another FM broadcast demodulator, which is a little nicer, gives you a little bit more controls. There's also an AM demodulator. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but you can see it's quite extensive. But anyway, for those of you who are familiar with DSD, having used SDR Sharp, you know kind of the challenge it is to set it up. You're going to see how easy it is with SDRangel and DSD demodulator. So you basically just point and click apply, and you'll see it appear over here. Now here's what you need to do. You need to make this window a little bigger, otherwise you are not going, whoops, I added too many. You're not going to be able to see the button that allows you to close the window. So I'm going to remove one of these demodulators, and you do that by clicking the X. Okay, so we have our demodulator, we have our hardware device set up, and this is currently set to my frequency of my my hotspot. That's running Pi-Star. So I click the little start button here, and you're going to see some activity down here on the spectrum display. These are controls that you can change. You can change the direction of the waterfall display if you want. You can actually turn it off if you wish. You can turn grid lines on and off. I'm not going to go into detail here. There's a lot of flexibility in terms of what you're able to do. But let's see if we've got any activity here.
Okay, very good. Yeah. We're mobile.
You can see by the display here, we're listening to D-Star, and this lock indicator tells us that we're locked on with a good signal.
As my hotspot for the internet. So when it switches between the repeater and the other, then it can get a little R2D2 in there. But you know, this 2,000-mile journey that we're on from Orlando, Florida to Mesa, Arizona, it has not been too bad through here. We have a few spots where we were out in the countryside yesterday, but going down the freeway, not so much. LP7FK.
Uniforme, Nick, Bezes, pick up with this Zulu app. Thank you very much for your call and ask, okay?
As you can see by the dashboard here, I've switched over to DMR. And I'm on the worldwide reflector 91.
Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Bye-bye, 73. Yeah, I'm a motor
System Fusion
driver, biker, but not the great machines. Only 125 cubic with 12 horsepower. It's just for fun. That makes me happy to drive through the country and with my friends.
Okay, I've switched over to NXDN. Actually, I'm calling through on Jeff K8JTK's DVMIS hub, and I'm listening on NXDN. I have my hotspot set up for NXDN. You'll notice that I've changed my bandwidth here to 2.4 kilohertz from 4.8. So let me give a call and see if Jeff's around. K8JTK from VE3MIC.
JTK from VE3MIC.
Nothing heard. VE3MIC
Nothing
clear.
heard. VE3MIC clear.
I've only really just scratched the surface. As I mentioned, SDRangel's been around for, I think the earliest date I saw on it was 2017. So it's been around for a while, and it continues to be developed. In fact, when I started doing the segment, I noticed that there was another upgrade to the software. And I think there's 277 releases that have been made over those years.
Wow. I didn't even know that existed. That's pretty cool. I'm going to have to check it out. Some of the audio obviously sounded much better than the other ones, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I should point out that I was using the software codecs that are incorporated into SDRangel or the demodulator, the DSD demodulator. I didn't get into that part of it, but you can specify and you can point it to, if you have an Ambi server running with, say, a Thumb DV, you can point it at the thumb DV and have hardware decoding of the actual ambi.
Oh.
So I'm sure the audio quality would be much better.
Yeah. Cool. I didn't even know that was around.
Yeah, me either. I'm gonna look more into that. That's pretty cool.
I mean, to be able to monitor, I think for the longest time, the most challenging and surprisingly was being able to listen to D-Star without having a D-Star radio, and it does a pretty decent job.
Yeah. That's cool. Very neat.
Well, I had something here I wanted to mention tonight. It's not an email, and it's not a post. At least it's not a post from me.
Well, mine wasn't either. Mine was actually a news article.
Well, that's kind of what, sort of what this is. Are you guys familiar with EasyNEC?
No, I'm not.
Easy NEC?
That's antenna modeling software?
Yeah. It's been around for a number of years. This is that real popular antenna modeling software that's used a lot, and it has not been free. At least the Pro version has not. Pro 2 version is going to be free beginning in 2022. EasyNEC Pro 4 is going to be discontinued, and there won't be supports or refunds after 2021. What's going on is the author has decided to retire on January 1st of next year. So he's going to give it away for free, but he won't be able to support it going forward. If you've ever thought you wanted to play with EasyNEC software, well, you can still buy a license for it right now, or you can wait to the 1st of January and it's going to be free. There's all the information right there, easynec.com. I noticed Andy said something about Huntsville. Yeah, I'm still planning on going, although the COVID case numbers seem to be going up. I'm vaccinated, and I'm still at this point planning on going.
Yeah, I'm planning on going as well.
And I think Email's planning on going. Not sure who else. I'm thinking Andy is probably going. I don't know.
Well, if he's not, he should.
Yeah, Ron's suggesting.
I see Tom WA2IVD's in there, and he's mentioning that I think he's indicating that he's possibly going as well.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's only a month away. Wow.
Actually, got a notice, and it was kind of torturous because, as you know, our borders are still closed, and I can't cross the border at a land crossing anyway. And there's a big ham fest in Batavia, New York, this weekend, tomorrow actually, and couldn't go even if I wanted to.
Yeah, well,
Could you have like a kayak or something? They're not monitoring the water.
If you can get down to Mexico, I think you can slip in.
And I've seen things on TV where they went over those falls in the barrel. You could just do that and swim over to the other side. Yeah,
unfortunately, the water is going in the wrong direction. If I was traveling from New York coming over here, I'd be okay. I'd have to swim upstream.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably something you'd want to check out before you just jumped in.
Yeah, Tom says he's planning to be there.
Cool. Well, Tom, we'll look forward to seeing you there. And Shreveport's coming up in August? Okay.
I've never been to that one.
I have.
I would like to go back down to the one in Rain again.
And Slidell, October 8th and 9th.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to add that to my list. I may make that one.
You know,
I'm going to try.
I'm long overdue for some jambalaya, but, last time it was so torturous standing in line there and seeing the guy right in front of me get the last bowl.
Got the last bowl.
Oh, yeah.
You just got to get it early, I guess.
Yeah. I shouldn't wait till the last minute, I guess. That's what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Well, Tommy, any final things you want to mention tonight before we go?
No, it's been a fun show, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks on Ham College.
Okay. Sounds like a good idea. Mike, what about you?
Let's see. When thunder roars, stay indoors.
Good plan there.
Words to the wise.
And me? Well, I just hope to see some of you over in Huntsville. And I don't know, be the first Ham Fest for me and a lot of us for quite some time. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing you, as Tommy said, at the end of the month for the next Ham College and middle of next month for the next Amateur Logic. 7-3, everyone.
Yep, 7-3, everybody. Good night.
7-3.
Every Tuesday night we've got something going on too that Tommy's thought we needed to do this.
Actually, this was Mike's idea.
I'm surprised after last week's gag with the crock pot that folks are still talking to me. George started a bonus question, and that was on the last week's net.
That has been hacked or photoshopped by Mike. That didn't originally say crock pot on it, but we revealed what it really was. It was a ITT Jennings high voltage vacuum relay.